Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Full Dive Gaming Podcast, bringing a weekly dive of all the news, discussion, and condensed nerd talk you need for virtual reality gaming every Friday. I'm McAfee, producer and editor of this podcast.
I'm Jay Brat. I'm a virtual reality YouTuber whose community just reached 3,000 members today.
And as you can see, Adam and Destiny have merged into one person. I'm just kidding. They're not here. They both had to call out today. So today we have Jay's wife. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Natalie Bratton. I am a nutritionist / VR lover / J-Brat wifey, and I'm very excited to be here as the Destiny / Adam person. Fill in.
Thank you for sparing us from attracting all the people that were listening for waifu. All right. So, for those that are new to this podcast, so we're all sitting here in VR right now. We're talking to each other, and we've got cameras, and we're recording, and this is all going on YouTube. It's super cool. You should go check it out. Full Dive Gaming Podcast. Just Google it on, not Google it. Look it up.
Google.
Google it on YouTube. Yes. We run the podcast in 3 sections. First, a VR gaming news section. Second, we'll be talking about our experiences with some of the new VR games to come out this week. Third, we'll be running a discussion that changes week to week. This week, we'll be talking about which games do we think need to be in VR. There's a lot of them, but we've got some favorites picked out. Last week, we covered VR and pop media. Is sort of what it was about. So check out last week's podcast to hear all about it. So before we hop into the news section, we have a couple questions from our Discord community. This is pretty much commonplace at this point, and I don't know why I don't say we just have 4 sections, and it's to not scare people off. But we like this part. So Jay, you got the first one?
Yeah, so Nunio asks, what was your biggest wow moment in VR? And so I gotta say, I there's been so many amazing games and amazing moments, but it's always some of the first moments I feel like stick with people in VR. So actually mine, crazy enough, was on a Samsung Gear VR. There was this introduction to virtual reality. It's just a few minute experience, just introducing you, but it lands you right in the middle of space as the first part of it. And I was looking around and I was blown away. And then it takes you to this like Cirque du Soleil dancers, but they're all around you and they're creepy as hell looking. And I remember during this whole few minutes, I was just in awe that this phone headset plastic piece of whatever you want to call it was blowing me away like this. And from that moment on, I was completely sold on VR.
Nice. Nat.
Oh,
oh, that's right. We have a little bug right now where she can't actually see me.
Oh, yeah.
So I gave the little hand motion. She's just staring at me.
I can see you every once in a while. Oh, there you are again. Okay, now I can see.
Well, here's my cue. Here you go. Do it.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is also an early experience. It was the Batman Arkham VR, which is on PSVR. And that was one of the first big games I feel like I tried on PSVR or on VR in general. And that was, we'd had the Samsung Gear VR before that. So we'd experienced that some. And it doesn't have head tracking. So when I got into the Batman Arkham VR, it was so awesome to even just have that head tracking. And then it just looks so gorgeous. Any game on PlayStation VR that's like a PlayStation VR exclusive always looks really, really good. And just going into the Bat Cave was so awesome, seeing all the cool Batman stuff all around, and there's a dinosaur and stuff, and you just go into this big area, and it felt like a big area that you're in, and that was one of the first ones that I went into that just looked really good, and it was definitely a wow moment for me.
So my biggest wow moment. Well, when I first read this, I thought for the briefest of moments it read World of Warcraft, and I was like, "Do you,
Uh,
do you want us to talk about Orbis VR again? Because I don't want to talk about Orbis VR again." Um, but biggest wow moment for me, besides like the first time I tried VR, because that's I think for a lot of people that's like it's hard to get bigger than that. My first time was like down in LA doing an E3 thing and trying on the Vive, I believe it was. Yeah, it was the Vive. And just it was just the simple like it's one of the Steam Lab games, the one where you like pull a ball back and like this catapult thing and then it launches and knocks over stuff. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and that was like what first got me hooked on VR. Um so I think the only moment that is truly, because once you play VR often enough, games can be cool, but VR becomes the regular medium. That like initial wow, like this is crazy thing wears off. We are looking now at this point. Everyone here is looking for games that interest us and are interesting, not just are in VR. That effect is worn off. That said, the game that was able to recreate that the best has to be Skyrim. Going to Blackreach for I mean, I'd already been there 1,000 times on a 2D screen, but man, going there and seeing this huge ancient like area, seeing the doors, like you don't realize these doors are like 3 times your height. They just like doors in the regular game. It's hard to get a sense of scale. And man, the VR in Skyrim, there was so much scale, and I just kept having these wow moments over and over. I downloaded a mod that made it so you couldn't. It basically just adjusted the lighting. So once I was in the caverns, I had to like actually have a lantern or a torch if I wanted to see anything. And just like sword in hand, traveling down this like dark place with draugrs everywhere, and all you can see are their blue eyes. It was just so cool, and that was probably the biggest wow moment for me.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like definitely the scale in VR can be a huge thing because that's one big thing that you don't get in 2D games
Right.
that is like, wow.
You don't
Yeah.
get it, and nothing can convey that until
Yeah.
someone actually gets to play it and like sees a dinosaur or a giant castle or something. Like they have no
Right.
idea until they're in there. Like even Minecraft, if you played Minecraft
Oh,
VR, it's like
so good.
it's no longer that you see mountains out in the distance and okay, those are mountains. Like they look like big mountains even though they're far away. Like physically for some reason through the way it's rendered, that's a huge mountain out there. And it's like that in real life. Yes, a mountain looks tiny in the distance, but it's huge. It's like that in the video game. It's totally different.
Absolutely. Things in the distance that just look like things in the distance on a screen suddenly look like big things in the distance in VR. Um, yeah, there's a bunch of nerdy shit I can get into about why that is, but I'm gonna hold myself.
We'll
All right.
save it.
So, next question. TechRS asks us, where did we all get our names? So when he says that, he means our like gamer tag names. I'm now wondering if I should have held this off till we had all 4 guests.
We can
Because I'm
repeat it
sure,
next week.
no offense to Nat, but I'm sure he was curious about Destiny's username, Dollface. What's Adams again? Adams is like,
Isn't it just Adam?
yeah, I'm pretty certain it's like hold up, I can check real quick. Adam, where you at?
Yeah, I think his is
Yeah,
usually
it's just
him.
Alpha Adam. That's
Yeah.
his
And
that's his username.
it's like put together. It's actually like Alphatum, which
Yeah.
when I first read it, I was like, what the heck? And I was like, oh, it's Alpha. Alphatum.
Alpha.
So I mean his is self-explanatory, but I did kind of want to know about Dollface.
You will find out when you come back next week for the next
Yeah.
podcast.
We'll just tease it. I do know he'd previously asked, and it's not on here. He had previously asked what our workflow was. So you know what? I'll give you that. Just real quick rundown. We are recording in VR chat. Obviously, we're using. Wait, shoot! I wasn't supposed to say that. I'm gonna bleep that. Um, so we're recording in VR. And we've got OBS to record our screens, and we've got what's it? And there's some like cool ways we can get cameras working, but anyone who's used VR chat probably knows what we're talking about. Gosh darn, I said it again.
Just so
Oh,
many
no.
bleeps. People are gonna think you're cussing up a storm.
I gotta remember, there's 2 bleeps now. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so we use OBS to record the game, and we use a Zencaster to record everyone's audio at the same time. It saves a lot of headache for me to have to sync everyone up if we recorded like individually. And then we're on Discord to talk to each other. And then I use Adobe Audition to bring together all the tracks I download from Zencaster. I work my magic. The magic creates a single MP3 file that goes everywhere and enters the interwebs. And then I slave away at Premiere, and you guys get YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sometimes me or some magic mystery man does the final steps of YouTube as far as tags, descriptions, and all that. But
Yeah.
It's pretty easy for all of us that just get to sit here and talk, and then Rip has to literally do everything and never get behind on it. So perfect.
Yeah, I never get behind on it. I'm just on point. All right, moving on. So, this week's news segment is brought to you by no one. We still have no sponsors, but this week we have gotten an offer on a sponsorship. I will not say anything more than that, but we do have an offer. So you might all be losing your little no sponsorship segment that I know some of you are so fond of. So, news piece number 1. I always forget to omit the number 1 bit because otherwise I sound like the most extreme or something like that. Like news piece number 1. So Steam, I was about to say Steam sale is having their sale. Steam is having their Steam sale.
Perfect.
Nice. The Steam summer sale, it's happening now. It runs through July 9th. We got Half-Life Alyx having its first sale in the history of its being available. The price is now at $45, 25% off. You will get $5 off of either Alyx or any other game that's over $30. Only one time, though, to be clear. And we got a ton of other VR games that are on sale. We got Boneworks. We got The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. We got Vacation Simulator. Who wrote this? Like, who?
Oh, that would be our mystery helper.
Until
Job
you
Simulator
fall...
was a popular game. I mean, Vacation Simulator, that's
Everyone
kind of a big
needs
deal.
Vacation Simulator right now.
Have you played it?
No.
I played Job Simulator.
Which
that was really
great.
fun. I bet Vacation Simulator's fun.
The opposite. Well, all right. Whoever the mysterious person who wrote this, just I guess is a fan. Until You Fall, Pavlov VR, Onward, a whole bunch of games. I think Contractor's on sale too. Honestly, if there's a game you want, it's probably on sale on Steam right now. So go check that out, guys. It's that time of the month.
That time of the year.
I meant year.
It's Steam's flow sale. That time of the month.
It's that time of the month for Steam.
Yeah, I gotta say, so it's $5 off any $30 purchase, so it doesn't even have to be like a game that's $30. I got Boneworks on sale and Onward on sale together for $31 with that $5 off. So
I
this
might
is
have moved a pillow accidentally.
Whoops. This is the time. This is the time to get some Steam games because you get that extra $5 off too. It just sweetens up any of the deals you're having on there. So yeah, it's time. Go buy some games. We're all about it.
All right, game they should buy real quick. Going around. Half-Life Alyx. That's my vote.
I mean, that's the top one, but since you said that, I'm going to say Walking Dead. If you don't have it, like that's another game that's incredible.
Nat?
I'm gonna be the Destiny villain and say Pavlov. Of
Oh, but
course.
we hear that every podcast. What's your specific one?
Um, Vacation Simulator.
There we go. Never
I
played
love
it.
Job
Never
Simulator.
played it, but
All
recommend
right,
it.
well then say Job Simulator. Jeez.
You
For all we know, we're getting them into a terrible game.
Let's not fall into a rabbit hole here, but I do want to say something real quick. I do wonder these days, like now that VR's come so far, is Job Simulator one of those games that had a lot of wow factor for us because it was so fun in VR in the beginning? I wonder if it still holds up. So one of these weeks, I think I'll play it again and talk about that because I think that's a good question.
Which one?
Job Simulator. So like it was really good when VR first came out because all of us got to play with a phone and type on this and
Right.
like do this, that. Is that stuff, would it feel kind of tech demo-y now that we've come so far, or would it still be just as fun? So
Good
I'm gonna do some
question.
research and get back on it.
So tune in next week.
Yes. All right.
In the greater news, the better news piece number 2, but not
Better
second
than
best.
Steam sales?
Better than Steam sales.
Man, nothing's better than Steam
Dreams.
sales.
Rip, shut up. Dreams is finally getting PSVR support. Update coming this month. So Dreams, if you don't know what that is, Unreal Engine is like a game engine where people build games, do whatever. Dreams is basically like that, but for the PS4. Anyone can get on and they can make really any game, from what I've seen, from like the most basic little version of Pong to like an intense first person shooter. Like the amount of tools you have at your disposal are crazy to do whatever you want in Dreams. And now you're gonna be able to take those games you made and put them in VR. It's coming on the 22nd. I can't tell you, I'm super excited. I haven't even got Dreams because I was just waiting for PSVR support. So now it's here. I gotta buy it too. It's happening. It's been technically an early access on PS4, which is pretty weird because PS4 doesn't usually do that stuff. But this is Sony's big baby. We're hoping it's going to be something huge. So free update. It's going to include new VR specific tutorials, kits, playable content. It sounds like there's plenty to learn before you can go crazy and build that quadruple loop-to-loop space roller coaster you've been dreaming of. So you got to learn some best practices, building gadgets, and how-tos. So get in there. I'm super excited. I honestly probably won't spend much time building stuff. I just don't have the time like I'd like to. But I'm going to get in there and try a bunch of stuff people have made because I just want to see what people have done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Dream.
This is so cool. And like, even as someone who doesn't really play PSVR anymore, if you know, I see a lot. You browse. I think we all browse the VR Reddit, the VR subreddits, and there's a lot of people posting like the progress they're making on the games they're making, and these are not Dreams games; they're like quote real games, and there's a lot of stuff they have to work out when they're making VR games because while a lot like Unreal and Unity have VR support, it based off what I've seen, it clearly isn't like crazily integrated because like a lot of people are trying to work out VR physics and tune them. And the fact that we're still having to do that per developer is unfortunate to see. So if Dreams nails this and has like good VR physics and interactions already there off the bat, that allows a lot of people to be creative about this. And it makes me wish that Dreams had a PC port because I feel like you could see some really cool stuff here. You know, the VR is so full of experimentation, and to open that up to just everyone and anybody, that's pretty wicked.
I'm wondering too, how far is this going to go into like PS5 world? Because I mean, we're getting pretty close to PS5 launch here. This has gotta continue. I know it's going to be backwards compatible, but I would want to see Dreams get the ability to actually push the PS5's technology too, not just the PS4. So I think the first thing I'm going to try and do, someone was making PT again in Dreams, and it looked convincing. I think that's one of the first things I'm going to try. If they make it in VR on Dreams, that's going to be one of the first things I try and do again, because that sounds terrifying.
Yeah. That was when PT came out, like I thought that it like should be VR. I think that would be so cool. I don't know that I would really be able to do it, but it would be pretty sweet. I think
You'd try it, be like, this is really cool, and then that'd be it.
Yes, go in for 2 seconds. Wow, neat. Okay, bye.
Yeah, same. We did it, guys.
Oh my.
I would feel excited for I would feel excited for people like Destiny who would like that.
Yes. I think she would love that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
bet you would.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. So this is one I'm particularly excited about. I mean, all this these are pretty good. This is a pretty cool set of news for this news section, I think, compared to some of the past weeks. So Onward, my favorite, well, maybe not my favorite VR game, but it's easily top like 3. Onward is coming to Oculus Quest, July 30th for and I like kind of messed up my transition to the latter part of the sentence. So let me restart. um, and it's crossplay. That's all I had to say. Um, so, Downpour Interactive founder Dante Buckley first announced that the studio was making a Quest port for Onward back at last year's ESL VR League Season 3 Championships. That was a while ago. Stating the game would feature crossplay with both Oculus Rift and Steam VR headsets. Now, this is both cool for me because I now get to play with Destiny just whenever she wants on Onward, because she's only on Oculus Quest and getting Link set up is kind of a bitch. Um, so that's really cool, but also it's really cool. So this is like the first quote mainstream um, VR shooter that's finally able to make it to the Quest. I mean, there's both like Contractors and Pavlov, and I think Onward as well, have been available via SideQuest, but SideQuest is like something for the more tech savvy that are able to set that up. This is like proper. This is on the Oculus Quest store. Anyone can get this. It's just a purchase and download. And that's super cool. I wish we had the price written here, but I'm pretty certain it's like 25, 35. Definitely affordable. I would say this game's easily worth 60, but that's just me. So, yeah, super neat. Um, I'm glad. I personally am biasedly glad that Onward was the first one because I want Onward to be the biggest shooter. But nonetheless, I will be excited when like Contractors and Pavlov makes their way to Oculus Quest.
Well, this definitely has the potential, I think, to turn the tide a bit on people thinking Pavlov is the biggest one, because there's so many
Mhm.
people who have Quest, who want Quest, who are going to get Quest, and so many people, even me, who's pretty tech savvy, I still haven't side quested anything yet. Like it's just enough of a barrier that I haven't tried to do it. So if this game was out by then, this would be the game I would play first. So it's going to bring a huge amount of people in, and they're going to all get addicted to Onward, and then from what Rip has said and from what I've kind of seen, it seems like it's a hard transition back to Pavlov. I played even Contractors at Pavlov was a bit of a tough transition. So I think this could really pull a lot of people into Onward and actually discourage Pavlov a bit. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how that plays out.
Jay and I are both like, yeah, get the hell out of here. Yeah, I'm definitely more. I'm more excited for Contractors coming on Quest, and in the non-biased me that just wants VR to succeed, I think it would be good for Contractors to do well over Pavlov, because I think Contractors is a little bit more polished. It looks better. It's cleaner. Um, I really think it's going to be, and this is just speculation. It's not like facts here, but I think it's going to be the next VR shooter, and it getting onto Quest first would really solidify that. And I think it'd be a good example for people to see as a good shooter in VR.
Yeah, totally. Ooh, it is a good news week. Rip was right. We've got just good story after good story. Launching this week. In fact, it's actually tomorrow if you're in Pacific time, because it's technically midnight, blah, blah, blah. Tomorrow, Iron Man VR is coming out. Finally, PlayStation VR exclusive. Take that, Rip. PlayStation VR exclusive. The title's being published by Sony, developed by Studio Camouflage, following a demo of the game released last
Rip
month.
is crying.
And ahead of the week's July 3rd launch, the studio, they shared a deep dive on what players can expect from the game.
I want to play this.
Too bad you shouldn't have sold your PlayStation
So
VR.
sad.
I'm sorry, I went to a superior headset.
Well, it's not that superior if you can't play Iron Man. Anyways, post on the official blog, blah, blah, blah. Most important part you want to know, 8 to 10 hours of playtime. So like for those of us like myself who played the demo and was like, uh-oh, is this covering a lot of the game? 8 to 10 hours is actually a pretty good chunk, especially when the
Oh,
game is
yeah.
$39.99 unless you want to buy the deluxe edition, which is $10 more. But it doesn't really come with anything that I personally thought was worth. It's no DLC. It's just some more armor suits, some skill points to upgrade yourself a little sooner. I didn't think that was worth an extra $10 personally, but I'm excited to be live streaming actual gameplay tomorrow night of this. I can't wait.
Woo!
Rip, how do you feel about it?
Wait a second. Is Iron Man VR not out on PlayStation VR? I'm confused.
There was a demo. This launches tomorrow, full title. There's only been a demo.
I thought it was already out.
No, the demo was decently long though. That's why
It
we were all
was.
worried.
I think that's what I remembered was that the demo was like a good chunk of time because you'd played it for a good chunk of time.
Mhm.
So I just went, oh yeah, the game's out now.
Nope.
That's a good. I mean, again, I'm really bummed and want this to be on PC VR. I don't know why it's not. Well, I do know why. It's because Sony put a buttload of money and down on for Marvel and was like, here, only release it for us and take our filthy bribe. And it succeeded. Yeah, short of the filthy bribe, this is really cool. Iron Man VR is, it does give a really good incentive for people to pick up the PlayStation VR. It's still a good system. It still holds up. I didn't really care for it as much, but it still holds up. And what I'm Sony staying in the game like this is still a good sign, even if I don't get to play it. Them and Facebook sticking it in for the long run on VR, these are always going to be good things until we're really at a point where we're like, why are you still guys still being exclusive? This is dumb. So, yeah, it's good to see is my stance, even though if I am personally mad at it.
And there's going to be plenty of successes on both sides of the table. We're not going to cover this in the news, but Facebook just bought another big VR studio themselves.
Yeah.
So we're seeing more and more of this battle starting to happen between. That means these companies believe in VR. They know there's a future in it. And now they're starting to battle like, I'm going to get more of the pie first so that I can be the winner. So that means they both see it as successful. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Good news for VR. Woo!
Yeah. I mean, I own a PlayStation VR. I mean, not VR, 4. I could buy the PlayStation VR again and play this, but I don't know if Iron Man VR is a $400 game or even a $200 game.
$100 used. You can find the PSVR now.
$100. Is it $100 used game? That plus the price of the game. Oh, but so. Resident Evil is also going to be out exclusively on PlayStation VR. That might sway me. That might.
You gotta be like me at this point. You gotta have a PlayStation and a Facebook headset. Like if you want to get the best of all the games, you kind of have to have both.
Only if they introduce official controllers with joysticks.
It's coming. Next gen.
It's gonna be a while, I feel like, before we hear about that. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, then it's gonna. Sorry, PlayStation. I don't care how many really nice games you got. If you make me keep teleporting, I'm not gonna pick up your.
There's a lot of games you don't have to teleport in.
So what do you do?
They have you like press the thumb button and
do you
put
drag yourself forward.
No.
Well, no. You just put your hand like in front of you, press the thumb button, and you go that way, or you can move your arms, so like it's just... you can go that way or that way. It actually works pretty well. It's not too weird. And especially once you get used to it, it's
your whole body's moving, so that just looks weird when you try and shake your head.
No. Oh yeah, that's right.
It's basically like a run button is what it really is. And sadly, yes, we should have had a joystick. We're over that. We're not going to fight about it anymore. But that at least we have that in games to where you can kind of function, or games that are aim compatible, then you get your joysticks and then it's just great.
Right.
Yeah, that is nice. PlayStation. I'm very excited for PSVR 2.
Yeah.
What, like the new one? Wait, what?
Yeah, there's gonna be a new one, but they're dragging their feet on announcing
Oh, right.
anything about it. So
Yeah.
we probably won't hear about it until, I'm guessing they might say more about it like the holiday season this year, and it probably won't come out until the
Next
next
year.
holiday season or something.
Yeah.
But
I think I agree.
yeah.
That'll be really cool, though, to see what, PlayStation has a ton of money to put in this. And
Mhm.
unlike Facebook, they've got a ton of experience in developing hardware. So,
Right.
that's how they were able to pull off such a good headset to work on a console. So, yeah, I'm also just really psyched to see, they've had what, 4 or 5 years now to work on
Yeah.
the PlayStation VR.
I
I'm
am
expecting some good
excited.
stuff.
I think it's going to be cool, but we
Mhm.
won't know for a while. Anyway.
All right, for our last news piece, Until You Fall is arriving on PlayStation VR and Oculus Quest. So, Shell Games, what? Oh, I see. Shell Games VR hack and slash. This is just a lot of. Okay, I'm gonna have to like. This sounded okay in my head, but no, saying it out loud is not happening. Okay, so so Until You Fall, made by Shell Games, is leaving early access sometime in fall 2020. When it does, it will be coming out on 2 platforms: PlayStation VR and Oculus. Wait, and Oculus Quest. Does it? Is
Yep.
it? Did I? Is it supposed to be? It also comes out on these platforms.
Basically at the same time as it comes out of early
Okay,
access, it launches
gotcha.
fully on these 2.
Okay, so yeah, guys, this is gonna be on PC. It's gonna be on PSVR, and it's gonna be on Oculus Quest. That's like,
Sweet.
that's perfect. That's what every VR game should be at this point. Absolutely. And it's going to be out on Oculus Store and Steam VR Store for those that are curious. So it's super cool. When it releases, we're going to see a lot of like performance optimizations, balance updates, bug fixes, a lot of like general just make it like polished sort of stuff. Um, so I don't think we've been able to personally own this game, right? You don't own it, right, Jay? Yeah.
No.
So we don't own this game. I try to stay away from early access games in general, even VR ones, unless um unless I think there's not anything significant to like single player games. I tend to wait till they're just released. Onward, I think, is still technically early access, and so I picked that up because I don't even know when they're going to be out of early access, and the game seems fine. So I'm super excited to see this. I'm waiting till it is quote fully released before I'm picking this one up, but it looks pretty cool. There was a game that it reminded me of that I could not remember the name of, and I couldn't easily Google it. But if anyone knows what I'm talking about, it was like this. It kind of came out when. So this is for like mobile gaming. They were like back when like let's see, there was Modern Combat, Nova, and like Call of Duty Nazi Zombies. Back when like those were the games to play on phones, like early iPhone sort of deal. There was another really popular one, Infinity Blade. That's what it was. Um, Infinity Blade for all 10 of you that are like, oh, I loved Infinity Blade. You now get to fulfill your dream in VR. Maybe the next closest thing would be, oh, what's that Ubisoft game that did sort of well? You don't play enough regular PC games, Jay.
I
I
do
can't
not.
rely
Flat
on you for
games.
this.
I do not.
Ugh.
Adam's not here
Yeah.
this week. You're just effed over there.
Are you even going to be able to talk on our discussion section?
You didn't put what it was on the script, so I have no idea.
What do you mean? It's literally at the bottom of the script. Games we'd like to see in VR.
Oh, there's a spot that says title. You can't see the script, audience. There's a spot that says title and has a little spot to put it, and then he put a couple enters down lower. So I didn't realize it
Here,
was
let me
part
make
of
it
that.
real. All right, you better think on this. While better hold up, I'll
Process in the
fix it.
back of your brain.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This game that we're talking about right now, it looks cool. If you're fighting with swords, Of course, the footage we saw was only early access, so it's probably it
I
probably
was
What'd you
trying to
do?
fight with a sword. I'm so
oh
sorry.
They're in the
okay,
same room, guys.
hang on. We're sharing a mic between us, and she just punched the crap out of it.
I sorted it.
She sorted the crap out of the mic. So the footage we've seen is in early access, and it did show some teleporting and stuff. So I mean, I'm sure that's all going to be fixed. But I am excited because outside of like Skyrim and a few others that have done a little bit, like there still hasn't been a lot of great sword play yet, I feel like. And I'm interested to see
Mhm.
what they do with it because like there's a game called Shadow Legends that did it really well. Like you actually had to
Raid
block your
Shadow
enemy's
Legends?
swings. No, just Shadow Legends. You had to block your enemy's swings with your sword, and then that would open up a moment where you could actually attack. And that's what the game's neat because too many of them, you just reach your hand out and swing your hand violently and you kill your enemies. And that's not
Mhm.
the kind of sword play we want. We want to feel like we're actually having a battle. So I'm hoping this one kind of nails that. It looked like in the trailers, it kind of does. So I'm excited to see what this is like when it comes out of early access.
Right. I finally remembered what that game's called. So it's like For Honor, guys. So it's a similar principle of like when they attack a certain way, you have to defend a certain way, um, and vice versa. And then there's like blocking, and it's a little bit more like preset mechanics into the game that makes it both more intuitive and provides some direction to its gameplay. And we've been seeing more and more of that in a lot of these styles of games on uh, uh, for regular 2D screen games, I guess. Chivalry, uh, Mordhau, For Honor. All of these games have kind of figured out you don't want just random flailing of the sword. You want some more specific gameplay mechanics of swipe this way, then dodge this way, and then there's like a sort of dance between the two players as they work those mechanics between each other. So this one's really working on that. I think it'll do really well if it pulls this off. I think that'll provide some depth to the gameplay that's less random and more interesting. Do we know if this is PvP or PvE?
I do not know that. I believe, I feel like
I
looking at
just
it, it
watched.
was one
Yeah,
player, but
I just rewatched the trailer and I couldn't really tell what it was, to be honest. I I think I thought it was person versus environment. I think it's person versus environment. The third comment down reminds me of Infinity Blade. So I'm not the only
Nice.
one.
that's his comment.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
I'm extremely excited. I think this is going to
You
be a fun
sound
one.
extremely excited.
I always am. This
I'm
is my excited
extremely
voice.
excited.
This is my excited voice. I don't get too
This
crazy unless
looks
it's a
really cool.
PlayStation VR exclusive. One thing before we concluded the news section, I needed to say,
Okay.
we talked about Rogue Squadrons a couple weeks ago. We talked about like the first day the news had come out, and multiple news outlets had said this was coming out PC VR, PlayStation VR, and standalone. All of them were edited by the next day and got rid of the word standalone. So we said we thought this was coming to Quest. We thought that standalone meant Quest as far as Rogue Squadrons. That is wrong. That is not happening.
Oh,
So you need to
damn.
link it up if you have a Quest. That's the only way you're going to be able to play it. But know that I'm sorry. I'm sorry we said that wrong. We're not too big to say, hey, we screwed up on re-reporting someone else's news. So our bad, our mistake. I just want to make sure we got that out there to everybody.
So, do you know if it's going to be on the Oculus store or if it's going to be just like on Steam VR?
It said Oculus, Steam, Origin. I don't even know why it would say Origin. Like it said all the platforms, Xbox, PlayStation,
Oh,
Epic. Like it said it was going to be on everything. And originally the word standalone was on there, but now they switched all of them to PC
right.
and PlayStation. So yeah, it's going to be available pretty much everywhere, but you're not going to be able to play on the Quest without a link or, of course, playing it through your Wi-Fi with the virtual desktop if you're one of those cool people who knows how to do that.
All right. Interesting.
Painful.
That is good to point out. Thank
Yes.
you. All right. You got any news pieces for us, Natalie?
No. I don't have a script.
Maybe I should have put a news piece for you just to see how you do.
I would do great.
Make
I'm
up
sure.
some fake news real quick about the VR
Okay.
industry.
All right. Fake news.
But then they'll tell us we're a fake news source. I don't want
Moving
to be
on.
fake news.
Moving on.
Dang it, no fake news.
All right, fellas, we are on to the game section. So
Fellas.
I'm sorry,
Well-
I keep saying that. There
For
was
ladies. For
for
ladies.
ladies. I
Ladies.
like I got into this saying after working at a place I actually can't disclose. I don't think.
Ooh.
Because they've been
but-
shut down for sexism since then. That's why he doesn't
No.
want to say where it was.
But I had a coworker. I will give a hint actually that the only people who could work in this were guys.
Was this like a strip club?
No.
Victorio's secret.
Victoria's Secret. Men's lingerie.
You have to know the right places in LA to.
Amazing.
So, but because all the coworkers were guys, there was a guy there that would just always say like "morning fellas" and stuff like that, and I don't know, I like picked it up at some point. Now I can't not say that when I'm referring to a group of people.
We will break you, don't worry.
All right, I'll take it. All right, everyone.
Everyone.
We are on to the game section. This week's game section is brought to you by no one. We still have no sponsors. But if you would like to be a sponsor on this week's, or not this week's, too late for this week's, next week's or any future podcast episodes, reach out to me at ribmcafee@fulldivepodcast.com. That's RIPMCAFEE at fulldivepodcast.com.
Not next week's either.
Probably.
You're 2 weeks out now, people, if you want to get on
Whoa.
this podcast.
Yeah,
for
that's
Better
true.
get on it. Get on it.
All right. So.
So tell us what you've been playing a lot of, Rip.
I have been playing a lot of Onward. So I hinted at last week that I have, well, not really hinted at, I just said that I had joined a quote pro team. I'm going to say it's more competitive because the prize pool is only like $1,400 or $1,500, which to me doesn't really mean pro. Like you're not making a living on this. That $1,500 then has to be split between at least 5 people. So that's for like what, 2 seasons a year. That's nothing. That said, it is competitive and it is, on YouTube and it's streamed. It looks all very official. So it's a lot of fun. I've joined one of these. I joined a rookie team, did well enough that some fool thought I would always do that well. And
big mistake.
and recruited me to a quote pro team. When I say that fast enough, it sounds like I'm saying quote pro. A quote pro team. And that's been pretty sweet. We're as of Monday, which was 2 days ago, we have officially entered the tournament season. We're gonna have our first game Sunday, I believe. So by the time this podcast goes out, you will hopefully have heard about it and can 2 days from this podcast release, watch it. And I think it's going to be streamed. I'm pretty certain it's going to be streamed, but if not, it'll be on YouTube. Look for, well, actually, we're still working out the players. So there's a possibility I will be on reserves as opposed to the starter team. So maybe I won't be there. I'll join the Discord channel, guys, and you'll find out. I'll put information out. So I've been practicing, been running scrims, been getting my ass kicked, been kicking others' asses less often, and it's been fun. Oh gosh, darn it.
Crap.
I was like, whoa, are you flying around?
He got so excited he jumped out of his chair.
I can't wait.
For
So
all you sports fans that can't watch sports right now, that's the
Yeah.
perfect thing to watch.
Okay, I'm actually low-key excited that F1 is going to be starting out. For anyone that's also an F1 fan. Kind of niche, especially for an American.
Yes, that is exciting for you. We have talked
Yay.
about Onward before, but for Nat who wasn't here, I mean, it's a probably. Would you say it's the most intense military sim shooter? Like, because you played kind of all of them. Is it like the most real as far as killing people, shooting people? Like,
I
what would
mean,
you say?
if you're talking VR shooters, it's a pretty small market. So, you know, no, not her pillow.
Did you just ask
Yeah,
if
you
it's
can't
the
really
most
toss
real
them.
for killing and shooting
Just put it on the
people?
ground.
Yes, I did. This is
Do you
getting
know what
complicated.
it's like to really kill and shoot people?
He
I'm
plays
concerned.
airsoft, so he knows exactly what it's
Oh,
like.
that's true.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
he gets it.
That said, while I don't know what it's like to kill people, I know what it is like to shoot them with airsoft guns. And I do not intend to learn what the former is like.
That's
Um,
good.
I'm there for this sport of playing against others, not for Jesus.
Not for getting out the dark urges.
Not for being a murder simulator.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I'm there for the teamwork. I'm there for the, all the, it's fun to like learn to like work as a team, peek corners, watch angles, all that stuff. That's really cool to me. So, yeah, Onward is definitely the thing about once you get into pro level is it loses a lot of that sort of feeling of it being a mill sim for some reason. Well, not for some reason. I know why. And that's because milsim is typically more emergent in its style of gameplay. So, like for 2D comparison, you have like Onward, or not. Gosh darn it, not Onward. Arma, or you have Squad, or Hell Let Loose, or Postscriptum. And I'm sure these people here are like, "What are you talking about?" Hopefully, some of you have heard of Arma. That's a pretty popular game. So but when I say milsim, you've got like tight tactics, but it's more like you have an objective, your team works to like complete that objective, and it's a lot of emergent gameplay. It's less of an arena shooter. It's you have more open maps. You're trying to play the game not really knowing what'll happen, short of just you've got an objective. Whereas this, while we're playing in a milsim game in the sense that I don't know, the time to kill is really quick. These aren't large maps. This isn't really milsim gaming at this point. It's milsim enough that I really like it because, goodness, I could not do competitive. Excuse me. Competitive Pavlov or Contractors. I liked Contractors, but I don't. Even Contractors, the recoil felt really high and like unrealistically high. Like by the time it wasn't Pavlov where like I'd be pointing my hand down at my knee by the time I'm done shooting a magazine. But I still had to pull my left hand down way more than I wanted to. And just the general style of gameplay was very arena like. The time to kill was really long. So Onward is like you've got like one, maybe two shots, depending on the gun and depending on if people are wearing body armor. Super quick. It's all about holding really tight angles. You have to be really on point. It's all about positioning and team play. You're not gonna be able to run around a corner and rely on your skills to save you. If they have the drop on you, then they have the drop on you. And competitive play just brings that to a whole nother level because these people know these maps like the back of their hand. And that's why, like, even me with years of airsoft experience, like I can hop into an Onward public match and do pretty decently. And I can even hop into like the rookie boot camp, which is against other people who haven't really played as much competitive games, and I was able to do decently. I wasn't able to play in the tourney because of stuff, but that's another story. But man, once you get into this, like playing against the other pro teams, these guys know these maps so well that my skills only take me so far. I still got to know all these angles, and I have to learn the meta for this game. So I still prefer this over, like, I still enjoy this, even though I'm more of a milsim person. Like, if there was more of I wish that there was a version of this game that was more was more like Squad or Arma, where you had really big maps and you could really like create your own objectives and was a little bit more sandbox like as opposed to arena ish. Because as quick as the time to kill is on Onward, it's still at the end of the day plays like a really quick time to kill arena shooter because the maps are small and there's not like a whole lot of gadgets you have at your disposal, and it's only 5v5. It's not quite Milsim. Sorry, I went a
There's
while on that.
you touched on so many things I wanted to bring up, but one thing that I would love to see, if there's a developer that hears this and is like, whoa, maybe that would be cool. I would love to see a military style sim shooter that has procedurally generated levels. And I know that might be totally impossible, but I hate when I get into a game and surprisingly, my shooter skills in VR are actually decent. Where if you put me in Call of Duty or Halo, I would be terrible. But it's because VR can translate a bit more, I think, to some real life experience I have. And so, but the problem is I get in against these pros that know the map so well that it doesn't matter how quickly I can get on site and shoot them and try to take them down. They know the map so well that they're always at such an advantage. I would love to see a game that changes the maps to where everyone goes in. It's a bit more of a level playing field. So it's really more about your skills and how you can adapt your tactics with your team
Right.
rather than just the other team knowing where everything is already. That
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing to see something like that.
Absolutely, I would love to see that even in a non VR setting. Because
Yeah.
you're yeah, absolutely. The way Milsim games get around this is by having maps that are just so damn big that they can keep placing the objective randomly throughout the map so that every game does sort of play differently. While you begin to learn some of the meta for like the grand map, like, all right, that's generally a good place to hold because it watches this valley, that sort of stuff. It's still fairly emergent gameplay, and that's why I also play Squad a lot. Not a VR shooter though. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that ends up as a VR shooter first, that'd be so good. Um, but yeah, I absolutely agree. That'd be so cool.
Keep them guessing. The other thing I was going to touch on there too. So for people who don't know what one is or how Rip plays, he plays with a Pro Tube. So to give you more of a tactile feel of like you're holding a gun, your controllers have these magnets on them and they hook into an actual bar. So instead of like when I play a game and I'm just holding my hands in the air trying to lock them about in the approximate position, he gets to actually lock them into this bar. But that makes it more noticeable, I think, when you're playing a game that has horribly thick recoil because you're actually pulling your bar down and
Right.
essentially it might be messing with your rear controller. Where for me, I can keep my right hand locked no matter what. And no matter how far I'm pulling my left hand down to compensate for recoil, my right hand never changes angle.
Right.
So I can see where that would be even more frustrating for him, especially in the games like Contractors, where I didn't notice in Contractors and Pavlov, it drove me crazy. But that's a factor that can really change it too if you're playing with something like that, which I want to. I want to get one. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Well, you picked up Onward. You should absolutely play it with us. That'd be super fun. Yeah, but you're spot on. Your estimation is absolutely correct because it's one thing to feel like you're having to just drag one hand down. It's another thing to feel like you have like I have a stock to add realism to it. I can lock the controllers in place and I have 3 points of contract: one hand, second hand, and my shoulder, and it's really secure. I can aim solidly and everything's very stable, and it a lot of my real life skills translate a lot better in that scenario. But the moment there's unrealistic recoil, it means I'm like pointing my it's this disconnect between feeling like I'm pulling my like pointing at the ground with my two hands while my gun's still pointing straight. Like I'm sure that doesn't even sound like remotely fun, and it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
We
Yeah,
need
that's
an
weird.
aim controller. that was the thing about the PSVR, the aim control, having that physical feeling of holding it. It's so
Yeah,
good.
The aim controller is pretty sweet.
Yeah, we need something more like that. Well, as far as kind of on the military sim things, I decided to go back and play. I'm so mad Adam's not here because I was going to call him. I was going to call him a nerd.
So sad.
And I was going to blame him for this because he has been going on and on about IL-2, some crazy plane war game.
It's
But
World War
he's-
II.
Yeah.
plane
Oh
sim.
yeah.
He's been talking about that. And so I was like, I want to dust off the HOTAS and get it back in, because I've told you before on the podcast, I am not into flight simulator games whatsoever. I don't care about that crap at all when it comes to playing it on a monitor. But when I get in VR, all of a sudden it's so different. You feel like you're actually in this plane. You use the HOTAS joystick and it feels so real. So I wanted to get back in and play some Ace Combat 7 is currently the only one I have on PSVR. But you don't get to play the whole game, you just get to play a few missions, but it is so cool.
It has
You're
VR support?
For 3 VR specific missions, yes.
Oh.
It's not
Meh.
the entire game, but
Oh.
it's enough to give you
Lame.
a taste, especially with the HOTAS. That's like, holy crap. I also have the
Mhm.
pedals for the HOTAS. I don't know why. I buy peripherals too much. But you set it all up and it's so cool. But like it's so different because like you're looking up and you're actually seeing your target and you're trying to maneuver your plane up towards that target that you can look at. You're not looking through this tiny little monitor. And it's so fun and it's really intense. Ace Combat, they did a good job, and it's actually a perfect fit for VR because things at a distance can be blurry and you don't really notice because it's like you're up high and there's clouds. Like it doesn't really bother you as much as it would with other games that you can't see out into the distance, because all you really need to see are these planes that are around you and what you're shooting at. It's super fun. If you have Ace Combat 7, even it would probably still be really fun with the controller. But man, if you can get your hands on a HOTAS to play this, it's just so much better with that joystick in your hand. It feels so good. But oh man, if you wanted to get motion sick, that is the way to do it right there. Fly that game and make yourself sick as hell. So I don't think, Nat, did you ever get to try that one?
Yeah, I did. I remember. I was
Yeah.
just thinking about that. Like it was back quite a while ago when we first got the joystick thing. And I was only able to play it for like a few minutes because it was like, oh, like you just the way
I can see that.
you're going, like you can go upside down and all that stuff. And I already am a little bit prone to VR sickness, so yeah, it's pretty intense.
Mhm.
Most definitely.
It's
The,
cool, but very intense.
yeah, I got to well, not I got to. I occasionally have bouts of playing like for like 20 hours straight, just Elite Dangerous in VR, and then I'll wean off it. Um, but when I first really got into Elite Dangerous in VR, same exact thing. I already thought I had my VR legs, but man, did like especially in a spaceship, which is even worse. You're like rarely facing the same way. You're constantly just there is no up and down. The up and down is arbitrary. So absolutely, like
Yeah,
when you're
very
first getting into games
disorienting.
like that, yeah,
Almost like being underwater, like if you were like pushed down underwater by a wave and there
yeah,
is an up and down, but you can't really tell, and it's just like, what?
yeah, exactly. It's like
Yes.
being a perpetual state of being like tossed around underwater, and your brain gets used to it, guys. For those that are like, that sounds like a horrible experience.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
it took me, I don't know, 10-20 minutes to get over it. It's not that big a deal,
Yeah, but
I
if you're
think.
prone to VR sickness, definitely like do it in small bouts, go back into it, and there's a
Right.
lot of different things you can do. I think you guys talked about this in one of the episodes, but I can't remember which one it was. But fans on you are really helpful. I
Yes.
use sea bands, SEA bands, like the ocean,
Hmm.
that are really helpful too for those kind of things,
C
especially
bands.
intense games like
What are
that.
those? Are
Sea
they?
bands, they're like little wristband things,
Uh huh.
elastic wristbands, and they have like a little plastic ball on it that pushes on a pressure point on your on the bottom of your wrist, and it just like presses on this pressure point that helps you I
Huh.
guess know where you're at in space or something, that helps you not get
Weird.
VR sick slash motion sick. Yeah, it
Hmm.
actually, I was pretty skeptical when I got them, and we went on a helicopter ride a couple years ago, and I got those. It was funny because I got them right after we went on the helicopter ride. I think not like during the helicopter ride, but I used them when we had gone on like boat, and I get pretty motion sick on planes, and it helped with that, and it helps with VR. So I don't know why, but it is really helpful. So
Yeah.
that's a little trick for people if you get VR sick.
Well, like
And
even go ahead.
well, I was gonna say to those of you out there who are hearing that and are like, "Oh, snake oil, placebo effect." Like, dude, I don't understand the hate of placebo effects. If it's an effect and it makes me
Right.
feel better, I don't care if it's fake. I don't care if someone gave
Right.
me a sugar pill and said this is gonna cure your headache and it cured my headache. I don't care if it cured my headache because it was a psychosomatic thing. If it worked, it worked. So I'm
Yeah.
okay with it.
And I was actually really skeptical when I was like, whatever, like this seems kind of dumb, but I figured I'd try it anyway. And but if I was skeptical and it worked, I feel like that's pretty good. So it's
Right.
worth a try. They're pretty cheap. You can find them on
Mhm.
Amazon, I think.
Yep.
For like less
Right.
than $10 or around $10 or something like that.
And this when we say it's like a placebo thing, well, VR sickness in itself is a bit of a placebo thing. It's a mental issue of your brain going, I can't figure out why I'm seeing the world moving, but the body is saying everything's still not moving.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
that disconnect. So if you have something, even it doesn't matter if you've got your own weird thing to get over it. It's just a
Yeah.
tool to help the brain go, okay, things are fine. The world isn't going crazy, and I'm going to keep playing this game.
Yeah. That's right.
It's
Shut
totally
up, brain.
true. And we all call it motion sickness, which actually kind of adds to the problem. It's not. Motion sickness
Yeah.
is when your body's being shaken, your inner ear gets shaken, and that makes you feel sick. That is a physical reaction. VR sickness is technically simulator sickness, which
Yeah.
is just what Rip said. It's your body, it's your brain going, why don't I feel this motion that I see? Oh, I'm just going to get sick instead.
Right.
It's not fun.
Yeah.
Uh, Natalie, you played a game that is something that you really like. What was it?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. So, and this is a game that's pretty old now, but I picked it back up recently just because I was thinking about it. It is called Xing: The Land Beyond, which when it first came out, I thought it was called Xing: The Land Beyond, but that is not correct. And it originally was on PC only, and that's before we had a PC VR. And so it came out later on PlayStation VR, and I was really excited about it and kind of kept on the news about it. And the developer is White Lotus. And I remember like looking up all the news things, waiting for it to come out on PSVR. And they worked really hard to really optimize it for the PlayStation VR release because PlayStation's so different than PC. So they had like times where it was supposed to come out and then it was like, oh, it's delayed. But it was totally worth it. It's such a gorgeous game. And I have not finished it yet because I like picked it up, did it for a little bit, played some other games. There are just so many games that we have. And so, but it's a puzzle game, and it's a unique puzzle game because it's like in the game you're like going into, as it says, like the land beyond, so like you're dead and you're going into, like, it's not creepy though, it's like kind of a
Right.
spiritual game. But the puzzles are really cool. And one reason I was really excited about it is because it reminded me actually of a
Jay,
game.
what are you doing?
I'm fighting with the cat. Just keep going.
Because we currently have this bug going on, and I'll hopefully be cutting angles to hide it. But because they're in the same place, Jay's microphone is picking up Natalie's audio, so his mouth moves when she talks. So she was talking, and you were fighting the cat, but to me it looked like you were just going munch, 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 munch.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Nom, 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 nom.
These are things you're all missing if you're not watching the YouTube channel.
Exactly.
So make sure you stop
It
in.
is really fun to watch it on YouTube, actually. It's really cool. And it's even a different experience. Every week I listen to the podcast and then I watch the YouTube videos as they come out. And it's actually like, it's like a different experience watching it on YouTube. Like you catch things that you couldn't see when you're just listening to the podcast. It's actually really cool.
Right.
So yeah, definitely check out the YouTube channel. So
Mhm.
anyway,
Sorry, I just had
Xing
to.
Land Beyond. um, so you're in this afterlife. You go through these puzzles. And it reminded me of this game that was on the Gear VR, which is called, what is it
The
called?
Land's End.
Oh yeah, Land's End. So still land in there. And which is it's like a puzzle game thing, and you're going through these pretty landscapes doing these puzzles. And this was like, obviously Gear VR was much had much less good graphics and all that kind of stuff. And so it's just a really gorgeous game. And again, the developer really made sure to optimize it to bring it to PSVR, not just like, I don't think you really can just copy paste for PC versus PlayStation VR because it's
No,
so
probably
different.
not at all.
But man, it just like, you go into it and it, again, we were talking about scale earlier, like everything, there are all these different gorgeous areas. There's the first level, I believe you're on a beach and you can like just see these big beautiful trees. You just really feel like you're there. It's a great game for when you can't leave the house as much, because you just get these beautiful areas where you get
Mhm.
to just be outside in these nice places. And one of the levels I love so much, it's raining. It's like a lightning storm. So it's like raining and you see the lightning. And I love storms. So that one is so nice. And the 3D audio in PlayStation is so cool. Like, you move around and you can hear the rain sounds change as you move. And
That's
it's
pretty
just really
sweet.
cool. And it has like the spiritual aspect of it. It's like you're meeting these different spirits and learning these different stories of these different people. So it's
Mhm.
a really cool and unique game that just brings all these different aspects and in these just beautiful areas. So I've really enjoyed getting back into that game.
Mhm.
Definitely.
I'm looking this up now to see what it's all about. This looks really cool.
It
It
is awesome.
it is gorgeous.
And
Don't expect this is going to be like the most exciting
It's not action
experience.
packed by any
No.
means.
yeah,
This is if
I
you
was
want
gonna
to go
say I haven't
relax.
heard of it though.
It was kind of a big deal because the trailers that were coming out back when VR was still kind of early and new
Yeah, it
looked
was.
like
Oh,
way beyond what anything had done at that
Yeah.
time. It looked so gorgeous and so amazing.
Mhm.
And it seemed like it took so long for it to come out, even on PC first. Like everyone was waiting, and I think it got crowdfunded, and everyone wanted it, and then it like finally came out, and then we were still on PlayStation waiting forever. But it is graphically one of probably the
Oh, yeah.
best looking games
It's
on
gorgeous.
PlayStation VR.
It's beautiful.
I'll
It's
have to
just,
play it on PC.
yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's such a pretty game. And again, a great game for right now when you can't go out to places as much. Like, it's just, it, again, very calming. And especially that one level with the rain. If you like rain and rainstorms, I go in it and I'm just like, it just feels so nice. And there's no like, you don't have to fight enemies or anything. It's just these cool puzzles that you
Mhm.
figure out, and it's very fun.
That sounds pretty neat. Kind of reminds me of a Paper Beasts, what you guys were talking about
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Paper
last
Beast.
It's a
episode.
much prettier,
Yeah.
much prettier and less aggressive version, apparently, according to
Where
Destiny.
you're not accidentally letting poor little animals get killed.
Yeah.
So sad.
It's
Yeah,
one of
this
those games
sounds
that
good.
also reminds you like VR can be more than shooters and
Yes.
Right.
action. Like it can take you on a journey and an experience that's just beautiful and breathtaking. Where a video game can kind of do that, but there still needs to be like a game like Journey. There still needs to be some sort of like narrative and stuff. VR can just be so breathtaking that the game can actually be really simplistic and still make you have an emotional reaction, which is
Right.
amazing.
Just exploring a castle can be cool in VR.
Yes.
So yeah, I know it. Yeah, it's why Google Earth VR is
Yes.
one of the more fun, more breathtaking games to, because it's not even really a game, but it's just such a
Yeah.
cool experience.
VR.
Absolutely. VR, the future.
Get in the game.
Get
That's what it felt like you were gonna say.
No.
VR. Get in the game.
No. EA Sports. It's in the game. All right. Moving on for our last section, the opinion section. So, this week we'll be talking about games we'd like to see in VR. Again, I kind of wish I'd put that in back when we were still expecting Adam and Destiny to be on this podcast, and again, unfortunately, they couldn't make it. That and of course, I have like the two worst people.
Rude and untrue.
I am offended.
How do I make the middle finger in this? Hang on. I'm gonna
You need
figure
an
this out.
index.
There it is. Do you see it? Does it look like it from your angle?
It does.
I'm doing it. Okay, there. That's it right there. Okay.
Nice.
Are you not? Are you
Well-
not like Jay that just only plays VR games? I thought you guys were both that way.
So the flat games that I play are mainly older games because I grew up playing like Donkey Kong, Super Mario, and then Spyro and stuff like that. With my sister, like that's what got me into gaming, and so I still am kind of partial to those kind of games. The
Gotcha.
flat games that I play are mainly older games, just kind
Right.
of the nostalgia factor.
Sort of older like platformers.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you ever play Ratchet and Clank?
I did not, but I need to because
I was gonna
it's
say-
the same studio as Spyro.
And
So-
you should check out if you haven't seen it already, PlayStation released during their big event that they had very recently. They showed off Ratchet and Clank that's going to be coming out on the PlayStation 5. Have you seen that yet?
Yeah, I saw that. Mhm.
Yeah, it looks
It looks
so
pretty
good.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might have to play that.
Mhm.
It looks pretty sweet.
Alas, this is a VR podcast. Would you want to see that in VR?
I would really like to see. I mean, I know there are games that are kind of Mario Kart-esque, but I
Right.
feel like Mario Kart would be so cool, like actual Mario Kart. That wouldn't happen because it's Nintendo, but that would be so cool
Right.
to be able to, because that game is such a nostalgia game and like so cool to play with others, and it would be so cool in VR because even just like driving racing games that are in VR right now are so fun to play, and if you bring in that fun factor of getting to like throw a shell at someone and stuff,
Mhm.
that would be really cool.
Well, have you heard
And of
of
course, just any game.
have you heard of Crash Team Racing, CTR?
Oh yeah, I used to play that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty close game to Mario Kart,
True.
and I
Yeah.
could see them creating a VR port.
That would be so cool. Yeah, I really liked Crash Team Racing as a kid. That would be really cool seeing
Yeah.
all the characters.
We have the
Alright.
remastered one, and it's so cool. It's like
It
exactly the
is.
same gameplay, but it looks gorgeous on the PS4.
Right.
Yeah, it is really cool. Okay, PlayStation, do it.
Do it. I mean, you guys. I think Jay mentioned he might have played this, but have you guys played Mini Motor Racing?
Which one is that?
No.
I might have-
No. You
No.
guys should if you're looking for that type of gameplay, Mini Motor Racing honestly was a pretty solid game. That definitely captured that style of racing, like arcade racing. Where you've got pickups and you're on a small map, and it's more about having fun rather than trying to replicate a Ferrari to the highest detail. Super fun. I would. It's on the Oculus store. I don't know if it's on the Steam store, but you guys should try that out if you're looking for that. It's a little different. The maps are actually smaller than the Mario Kart ones typically are. It's very tight game, but if you get that one in the first person, it might be a little rough if you're prone to motion sickness. But once you get over that, I'd say it's pretty cool. Just try that out. But Mario Kart itself in VR, while an absolute pipe dream, would be
Yes,
very cool.
it would be so cool.
It actually does exist. Uh,
What?
if you're rich and you can fly there, there is arcades in China and Japan that have it, and they strap Vive trackers on your wrists,
What?
and then it
What?
has I think a physical steering wheel, but the trackers are on your wrist because it has hand tracking. Because you reach out and you grab a shell as you drive by, and then you throw
Oh
it.
my god.
It's
Ah!
arcade only. There's video of it. You can see it looks
Oh my
amazing, and it's like
gosh.
one of the main reasons I've been wanting to go on a trip over there for a while. You can't go now, of course, COVID, but I've been like, I just want to go and play Mario Kart more
Oh
than
my
anything
gosh. What
else.
the
That's
heck? We
crazy.
need to do that.
Yeah, arcade only still,
That's our
unfortunately.
next not after COVID vacation.
Yes.
Speaking of arcade only, off topic, have you seen the like more posts have come out regarding tower tag, and every comment I see is like, "Yeah, you should try this game. It's really good." And I'm like, "What? Did we play the same game?"
Oh,
Tower
I
tag.
have ignored it all.
Oh my
I can't
gosh.
believe that. I feel like that's got to still be people that haven't played much VR that are playing it, or they're still playing it in the arcade and
Right?
finding an amazing experience. But that was
I
the
could
most
see it being fun in an actual arcade.
yeah, it was
Right.
the most frustrating, annoying
That
at
is
home
so funny.
experience. Oh, back on track. Games we'd like to see. I mean, I feel like this is the most obvious one, but I'm gonna say Grand Theft Auto. I mean,
Oh
by far.
yes.
And I have
Is that
played a
just
little
because you
bit of it
like
with
Grand Theft
mods.
Auto a lot?
It's because I like it, but because it's also exactly everything I think we still need out of a VR game. And actually, I feel like the closest thing that touched on this was War Dust. I want a game where I can get out and run and do something, jump in a car and drive, jump on a motorcycle and drive. And War Dust was janky as hell, but it kind of touched on that. And I was more convinced too because I actually made a video of how to get the mods working and play Grand Theft Auto 5 in VR, and it obviously isn't made for it. And you obviously at that point could not play the whole campaign because you didn't have your GPS. Like you literally have to memorize the city to know where you were
Oh,
going.
jeez.
It wouldn't work, but even just playing the intro in it, it
Ugh.
was like, this is incredible. It is, the details just show through. It's so perfect. The way you drive feels so much better. You're driving the car. Oh, I just hit the mic. I'm sorry. I'm going to restart that in case that made a horrible sound. You're driving the car and you're looking before you make a turn and you swing that turn. Even though you're flying fast, you're driving so much better because you can actually turn your head and see you're not crashing into everything while you're flying through town.
Mhm.
Grand Theft Auto 6, if it is not in VR, I'm going to cry myself to sleep for months
Oh,
on
jeez.
end. It's
Oh,
it just feels like everything we need in a game because it's absolute freedom, and that's
True.
still what VR hasn't really touched on yet. Is a game where you can just go have fun in the city, not even playing a mission or anything for a while. Like we need that.
Mhm.
And I just got to mention one other. Like I feel like a Unturned actually is a game I've spent way too much time playing as far as a flat game, or like Daisy. I want to see some more like with real survival elements, kind of, and of course zombies because I love zombies, but a little bit more of that in VR too, like something more fully fleshed out. Because I know there's been bits and pieces of it coming, but just seeing a fully fleshed out survival game, even if it had multiplayer, I feel like that would just be a game I would get lost in for so long.
Well, the Forest has VR support.
I actually just got it. I haven't played it yet. I'm trying to find the right people. I feel like it's kind of a
Right.
game you should play with a couple people. That is
I'd be
one that
down.
does look good.
I'd absolutely be down.
Yes.
Is it on sale with this big old Steam sale that's happening right now?
I don't know because I feel like I got it before that.
Right.
I also got Payday, which is another one I just need to actually play because that one looks really cool as far as being able to do all this crazy stuff I'm talking about. But Unturned, actually, you can make Unturned have VR support, but it's so bad it will make you sick. But I don't know what it is about that game. I've spent like 250 hours playing it, which is just that's a
Mhm.
lot for me on any game.
I attempted to boot up the Steam store in hopes that it would load before you finished what you were saying, but it's just giving me a black screen.
We will not know. Tell us in the comments if this is on sale.
Yeah. Well, regardless, if you're playing it, I'd pick it up, whatever price it's
Okay.
at.
Okay, make it happen. Rip, what's your game or games? What are you waiting
I'll
on?
be honest, this was just an excuse for me to talk about Sea of Thieves on the podcast. But actually,
I
that
said
go ahead.
Battle Wake, man. Didn't I tell you Battle Wake is what you gotta go
Right?
look
Yeah.
up now.
Goodness. Oh man. No. So I imagine a lot of you have probably heard of Sea of Thieves, unless you're truly VR only, like this schmuck over here. He's trying. You I guess. You're just trying to flip me off again. Um, so, Sea of Thieves is a game I've been playing a lot of in the past week. It's been out for a while. Like, this game isn't new, guys, but I've finally gotten into it because it's finally gotten to a point where it's got a lot of content and it absolutely shows. So we're again a VR podcast, but if you play regular old games still, man, Sea of Thieves is a good game to get into right now. But anyway, I've been playing a lot of it, and I swear every time, every 5 minutes that goes by, I see another beautiful sunset. Just like at the helm of the ship, and I'm like, I'm already having fun and immersed, and I could not imagine how cool this would be in VR. And I would just kill. I would
You
drop
would
money.
murder someone in real life.
I would, if there was like, if the only way I could play Sea of Thieves was like on a brand new headset that exclusively played Sea of Thieves and it cost $500, I'd buy it. It's like, oh man, it looks so good. And if they get any of that across to VR without reducing too much of the lighting and fidelity, which is typically what happens when you get in VR. But you know what? Elite Dangerous pulled it off fairly well. I believe it could happen. And Sea of Thieves isn't like the most intensive game. It's like, it uses a very indie cartoony style palette and models. I think it could absolutely be ported to VR. Just Microsoft, gosh darn it, has no interest in VR, so we don't see it.
So sad.
Right? I mean,
They keep crapping the bed on that one.
yeah, I just once they get in the market, then we're really going to be in some good places. But right now they're not. So we're probably they're I'm pretty certain the developers themselves have said that there are no plans for VR. And that's just like now that I've been playing all this, it's like nearly heartbreaking to hear. It's just such a beautiful game, and it feels like it was practically built for VR and ported to PC players. It like it's got very simple tools. You've got like just a simple shovel mechanic, simple aiming and shooting mechanics, simple spyglass up and down. That like everything is made to be super accessible, which usually means it can be translated into VR really easily. This thing would barely use all the buttons on like simple controllers. It make it happen. it it's so good and so needs a VR port. Admittedly, I would struggle with how they'll handle motion sickness because it's one thing to already have the disconnect between my eyes and body, but to have the disconnect between eyes and body and have constant moving that you're not controlling because you're on a ship that's doing this. That for those that are just listening up, like it's a boat. It's like rocking back and forth, especially in Sea of Thieves. It really nails that like the movement of a big ship on some heavy waves, which is really fun. But maybe in VR it'd be I don't know how they'd handle it.
Maybe that's why they don't want to do it in VR because they're afraid
Maybe.
they'll get too sick.
Yeah, maybe they briefly tried it and were like, "This is awful."
I think that can't be the case. I mean, being motion sick on a boat is going to be more immersive in VR.
Yeah,
It's going to
right.
make you feel like you're actually on the boat, getting sick for real. So it's an added bonus in my book that you're going to get sick in this game.
Oh, I feel terrible. It's so good.
This is so realistic.
This game comes with a barf bucket.
Nat here is gonna be. Are you okay, honey? This is what I was looking for. Ahoy!
Spray of water.
Yeah, he's got like a little spray bottle attached to like a motor that blows water through a fan.
Full immersion. It's what we want. We're joking obviously about the motion sick part, but like it is what we all want who have been in VR a while. Like we want to see how far we can push this to like convince our brains we're actually there.
I'm sad that the smell things stopped production because they had a thing. It was like I can't remember which headset. I think it was just like for any headset.
Yeah, it was going to be for all of them.
And it was like a smell thingy. It had like cartridges that had different like scent combinations that could go with a game. Like it could smell like a jungle or it could smell like I don't know, a river or something. I think that would be so cool. But they had it in production, and then I think they stopped.
That company did, but I just saw another company
Oh,
that's advertising that they're making one. So who knows? It might happen.
Mhm.
that'd be cool.
I just want to play Resident Evil 7 and smell dead bodies all over the place.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Walking through the house. You know,
We have the
obviously.
candle.
Yeah.
The
It
immersion.
smells terrible.
It smells terrible. I love it.
We also have the Skyrim candle. That one smells nicer.
The Skyrim candle. Whenever you enter the tavern, you like light it.
Hey, it smells like this world. My house smells like my house is on fire. I wonder why. Maybe it's because I left a lit candle and I can't see
It's
it.
getting hot. Oh man.
So immersive.
You have some smell boxes set up, and whenever you enter a new area, you close the box you were in and open a new
Yes.
one and get the
Ooh.
smells going.
Yes. You just have to have like a second person out there, like
Yeah.
figuring out all the smell boxes for you.
Keeping an eye on the screen to watch where you're going, and like opening a wolf scent for when a wolf attacks you.
No joke. I'm sure there are people out there that can relate to this though, but I have done, like, when we had a roller coaster on the Gear VR and we'd have people over, I played it a couple times so that I kind of had an idea how it went, and then I'd see it on the screen and I would have a box fan in their face and I would be changing the speed based on the speed that they were going on the roller coaster. And people were like, that was, and I wouldn't tell them there was even a fan in the room.
Yeah.
Like, how is this happening? This is amazing.
Yeah, they thought it was coming from the headset.
Yeah. Like, I didn't know
Oh,
this
that's
did
funny.
wind too.
Oh.
And it's, you know, it is really cool. Obviously it's really unrealistic to try and do that for everyone,
Right.
but like for someone's
It
first
really
time,
adds to it.
yeah, if you can do a little something like that, it is really cool just to take it another step.
And I could see something as simple as wind associated with, like, if you just had a fan that literally just binarily had like wind for when you're outdoors and no wind for when you're indoors. I feel like that would add to a game. That seems like a very simple thing and maybe even gimmicky, but I would get that. That would be really cool. You know, it would add to that feeling of like when you're outdoors and there's a light breeze. I mean, just first off, it'd be kind of feel nice, and second, it'd be a bit immersive.
And that's what people don't get. Like, gimmicks are gimmicks until you're in VR.
Yes.
Then all of a
that's so
sudden,
true.
these things that seem gimmicky, like having 3D audio on your headset when you're sitting 20 feet from your TV, and like, yes, this sound is coming from behind Lara Croft, but that would actually in real life be between me and her because I'm so far behind her. Well, now when you're in VR and you're in this person's perspective, 3D audio,
It's
haptic feedback,
Amazing. Yeah.
everything it's no longer a gimmick because it feels real. It
Right.
changes the game.
Absolutely.
So true.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up this podcast. Man, this was a fun one. Not just because we had lovely Nat here, but because we had some really cool stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This was a
Good
good one.
week for news. Good things to talk about. Good questions from
Adam
the
and
Discord.
Destiny missed out.
I know.
feel
They
so
did.
sad for them.
They did.
You got to reap the benefits.
I did.
But it was really fun to have you here, Nat. Everyone, for those that haven't heard me say it already, we've got the Discord community. Guys, stuff happens there. Lots of conversations. We're always around. Really fun place. Would recommend it. I would join it if I was a listener.
I'm a listener. I'm on the Discord. It's pretty sweet.
There you go.
And you get to submit the questions for the Q&A. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And I even remind everyone, you know, because everyone loves reminders. So we got the Discord community. We have a Patreon. If you're interested in supporting this podcast, you get the episodes one day early or earlier, depending on how quickly I get the podcast up. That goes up on Patreon for exclusive access, and it's stereo audio as opposed to mono audio, which actually sounds pretty good. Like it really only changes the intro and outro songs, but man, they sound significantly better. Would recommend that. So that's $5 a month, and we'd like to add more benefits as people start to sign up for that, but it's pointless to add a whole bunch of benefits for people that aren't there. So,
$5 a month. That's like a coffee at Starbucks.
yeah,
Guys.
and it's
Give
not
up one.
it's not like the Uber and Lyft version of, oh guys, it's just a coffee at Starbucks. Like, come on, Uber, it's never under $10. You're right. It is not a coffee. It's legitimately one Starbucks like venti, or even grande. Maybe not the small. Yeah. So we're gonna have all sorts of cool stuff, and you already get the episodes early, and there's some exclusive Discord channels. Um, yeah,
Ooh.
for those that are listening and didn't know about that, the Patreons get a little place to talk away from the rubub of the peasants.
My right arm has broken.
I was
If
wondering.
anyone is
Uh-oh.
missing
I
this.
see. I was wondering what you were doing.
I'm holding it still. It is just going
Ooh,
crazy.
I'm
That means
gonna
we got to finish this up.
All right.
What
Yeah.
else?
Convenient timer. All right. Thank you for
glitching.
listening, everyone. Thanks for listening, guys. Catch you all on the next episode.
Bye,
Hey,
everybody.
your hand works.
It fixed just in time.
Just in time. Goodbye.